from what I've seen from other boards, is that, so they don't do kind of like recommendation, but more of like, here are the options.
Here's
like
what has been
before you.
done, here's what you could do.
Yeah, here are the options like before you, these
Gotcha.
are the things you can vote on, kind of like.
And that makes it a lot easier for them to decide too, instead of just asking,
Yeah,
going
just-
round and round and questions and
yeah,
stuff, so.
Absolutely.
Alright, sounds good.
I see, I see.
Okay, good, I just
Yeah,
wanted to make
yeah.
sure that everybody.
Yeah, I didn't read, I just come through it, but yeah.
But even the body of what I said.
Yeah, yeah.
Pretty much sums up.
Yeah, and then front I share with me some thoughts about it, and then, yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty,
Good,
yeah.
perfect, thank you.
So anything broadcasts.
Okay,
Just for.
thank you. Okay.
I really didn't appreciate the spring in front of the board.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. So we're going to start with introductions. Mike?
Michael Parado, present.
Francis Anthony's board chair.
Leone Grom Cruz, a member of the board.
Thank you. Could we go to staff now, Alex?
Alex Arriaga, Interim Commissioner of Health and Human Services.
Tamara Lundy, the Director of the Division of Public Health.
Kyle O'Connor, Tobacco Prevention Specialist.
And the guests in the room next.
Hassan Dambele, Yatco Energy.
Kieran O'Donovan, Yatco Energy.
Thank you very much. And then the members who are attending the meeting who are on the line. Could you identify yourselves? Folks who are coming to the meeting virtually? Okay, I'm going to assume that there's either a reluctance to identify themselves or some glitch. So next, I would turn us pretty quickly to move along to the minutes of the last meeting. And Kyle has offered one amendment on page 2 under tobacco hearing. The Zenchil is Zynchill in the first paragraph, second line. So we would accept that as a correction. Are there any other corrections to the minutes? And if not, I'm looking for a motion to pass them.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Leo. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mike. And now we'll do the vote. Mike? Are you all in favor?
Yes.
Leo?
Yes.
And Francis Anthony's also yes. Thank you. On the minutes. This gets us pretty immediately to some of the agenda items that are carried over from the last period, and I'm looking for a motion to accept that maybe we move to some information that we've gotten from Alex, and then moving the hearing up to be the first item on our agenda after that, just so you don't have to be here too long. Is there anyone willing to make a motion to amend the agenda?
Motion to amend the agenda so the hearing can take place first and the report that we received from the administration. Thank you, Madam
Thank you,
Chair.
Mike. Is there a second?
Second.
Leo, thank you. All in favor? Mike?
Aye.
Leo?
Aye.
And Francis Anthony's also aye. So we will move the agenda to that. I just want to note before we start the real business of the meeting, we've had one retirement since the last time we were together, which was Dr. Hirsch's. So we're missing his presence here and assuming there's a plan to bring that kind of expertise before us in the future. We're also short members of this committee. So we only have 3 members now. I think there's a process underway to get new members for this, but that is something that makes our job a little bit more difficult. So we're looking to staff to help us with both those items. Okay, I'm going to now turn to Alex, who has done some of the homework that we asked for. So you'll remember that at the hearing last month, there were some questions about whether we could table the item. A hold was actually the word that is used from the city council perspective. And then there were also some other questions about any legal guidance in terms of the need of the Board of Health to follow the regulations that it has set. So Alex has done some homework for us, and we really appreciate that. And then also worked with the law department to make sure that the ways in which we are operating are the appropriate ways. So Alex, would you want to inform us about that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I had sent out an email to the board with some guidance from the law department with regards to, what you can do as far as holding an item. The board itself operates under Robert's rules and can hold items for very specific, purposes. And usually this is in regards to the need for more information on a particular item, or there is some procedural question. It could be of a legal matter or from, including the people here. Ideally, we don't hold them because you get the information ahead of time. You have the ability to, request information from the staff, and you would be very much prepared and available to, provide your determination during a board meeting. Now, looking back at what had occurred in the previous meeting in particular, the board could have asked to hold the item prior to a hearing, but in the middle of a hearing, really the board, should be determining based on the current regulation as it is laid out. Now, there was a question with regards to looking at potential changes in the future, and unfortunately that, has no stand when it comes down to, I think I lost the mic, there we go. When it comes down to hearing a particular tobacco compliance issue, you are to utilize the regulations that are in place at the time, and even in the future, you would look back at the regulations that were instituted at that particular time and not any future regulation. So any violation would be subject to the regulations based on that particular time frame in which the whatever had occurred. So that's one thing. When it comes down to the implementation of, you would say, whether that is fines or even the implementation of having suspensions. Both, particularly the suspensions, are really based on precedents that has been laid out by the board on previous on previous voting. Now, that can be changed. It can be changed, but the process of changing it would be, going through a formal process of changing the regulation, having a public hearing, and then adopting new regulation that would, allow you to do otherwise. So precedence is used in a way to continue to provide a fair process across the board for all of the different businesses that are, looking for a determination of the issues. Now, with regards to the fines, those are very prescriptive, and we follow, the statute. But I think that there was some questions around the hold, and then the other question around really the precedents or following precedents. Do you have any other questions?
Thank you. Thanks very much, Alex. Questions from members of the board? Yes.
Madam Chair. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I mean, the first question I have, I do appreciate the report, Alex. Can you an attorney by any chance?
No, I am not.
Okay, so you received all this information from the law department?
Yes,
is
I
that
did.
correct? Okay, and that's subject to your interpretation of what they said to you?
No, it's included in the communications that I provided to the board. It's a memo from the city solicitor.
Okay, so the next question I have, maybe the solicitor should be here, but the Board of Health, like all other boards and commissions, follow Robert's Rules of Parliamentary Procedure. And then this is what I'm questioning here. There is no parallel Board of Health regulations to the charter hold provisions of the City Council rulings allowing a member to hold an item under privilege. Could you give an explanation under that for me? And where is that stated within the charter?
Well, that would not be stated within the charter, that particular example that you have provided. What it is that the boards follow Robert's Rules of Parliamentary Procedure. Now, the council votes its own rules into place. So things like holding items for, under privilege and so on are not included in your general Robert's Rules. Everything that comes from the board as far as a vote or any, I'm sorry, I'm losing, there we go.
Yeah.
As far as motions, as far as, to hold or anything like that, should be a consensus with the board. So you can put in a motion to hold an item, and the board has to have a consensus on voting that into a hold rather than one individual.
Right, and can you tell me where that is in Robert's Rules? That what you just said, that we have to hold, we can't hold it under privilege, we have to do a majority of the board?
So under Robert's Rules, the board votes. It should
I
be a
understand that.
consensus.
My question to you, Alex, okay, is where is it located? What page is it on in Robert's Rules on what you're stating right here?
Mr. Parado, I can come back to you with that.
Okay, that's all I need. I appreciate that, okay. The next question I have, okay, is concerning, my understanding is that the board has adapted a practice of imposing penalty and fine structures provided in the state's implementing Regulations 105, Chapter 665. While not a requirement to the board, it has been operating this way should be consistent with discipline. And I understand that. In other words, what you're telling us, whatever procedures, whatever penalties, whatever that we've followed in the past, we should continue to do that.
So what I am saying is if you set precedent of a nature when it comes down to voting based on a specific set of circumstances, for example, first violation,
Right.
then, and if you've been voting consistently in that manner, that you should stay consistent. Now, that's not to say that in the future you can change it, and there's a process for that. That's
Okay.
all it was.
So, and also reading, when this was adopted, I wasn't on the board, so please bear with me, that's why I'm asking the questions, okay? Is that the board did not have to implement this, correct? That's the way I'm reading it. They chose to?
So the board had the, at least following the state regulation, because that's what we're deferring to,
Yeah.
they had the ability to both utilize the suspension system and the fine system. The fine system has not been in contention. I think the suspension system was what we were discussing, or that piece, and that was up to 30 days or more, but the or more, and that is if it was voted on by the board into regulation. It wasn't voted on, rather is something that has been set by precedent. So that part of it, the precedent piece for the suspension part is what we were saying. It's not something that you voted to suspend for a specific amount of time. It's something that the board has done consistently, and therefore set precedent as to what you do in the case of a first offense, second, and so on.
So in other words, the board made a decision on what those offenses should be and how much money they should be fined, et cetera, et cetera?
No, I don't think that's true. I think we have to do the fines.
Yes.
If I'm correct.
Right.
That's a state regulation, and that we have the ability to set rules for a suspension any day up to 30. And we have said for many years now, 5 days.
Right. That wasn't my question. Mine was on the monetary. Does that come from the state or does the board?
Yes.
Appreciate that, understanding that. So, and then there's just one other interesting thing, and then I'm going to wrap up, Madam Chair, okay? It says, so if the tobacco regulations are adopted in February, they cannot be legally changed the outcome of the violation that are occurred. And I concur with that 100%, okay? But delaying in hopes of a different penalty framework is legally unsound. And I would probably agree with you on that also. But my question here, is it not legal if this precedent were to take place? You would
So
say it's
before
legally
I do that, I
unsound.
want to add one more thing, because it is also included in our local regulation with the fine structure. I just missed a spot there, but we actually have that as our local regulation. The fine is 1,000. So it's not just, and this microphone, it's not just the state, but also our local regulation. Can you read again the?
Okay, sure. It says delaying in hopes of a different penalty framework is legally unsound. And I agree with you on that. It's legally. But my question to you, is it not illegal to do that?
To do, I'm missing the.
Delaying in hopes of a different penalty framework. So if we delay this until
I think you're talking about due process. So,
let me finish.
go ahead.
New framework, okay, what you state is legally unsound. And I agree with you on that. Okay, my question to you. But it's not illegal to do that.
Nope, not illegal.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make a clarification on that. Thank you very much for all your answers. I appreciate your work. My questions were a little bit pointed, but that's what you did a very good job answering them, and I appreciate it. And I look forward to getting that answer back that I've asked for. And I yield back to Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Lance, questions? Okay. So I think now we have the framework, and we realize that there were some things that we did at the last meeting which we weren't so sure about. We now have clarification on that. To review those, I believe that we have clarification on holding an item is not a matter of privilege in this board, although it is in the city council a matter of privilege. In this board, if you were to table it, it would essentially be, it would be through a process of a motion and the votes being cast to do it. So just to clarify that.
That's not. I'm asking for where that comes within the charter. Okay, that's what it says, charter hold mechanism, and he's gonna get back to me on that answer. So I don't know if it's necessary at this point of what you're stating. I'm gonna support it, okay, but I want an answer on,
Okay,
okay?
right.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair.
The other things that I think we have clarification on are, and that, this we just went over in great detail, so that it is the responsibility of this board to abide by the regulations that are in effect at the time of the violation, and that was also clarified for us. And then the fines and the suspension come from both state law and our own regulations, and there is an issue of precedent that is generally abided by, because that's how we can assure equity in terms of the way the rules are being observed. So I think those are kind of the clarifications. Gentlemen, we asked you to come back because we weren't sure exactly of all of those items last week, so I'll give you the opportunity to say something now if you would like to, because we realize we brought you back into the room for a second time. We do have in front of us, just for you to know, your statement. So we did get a copy of the statement you gave us last time, and I think it would not be amiss for me to say, both last time and I still feel the same way about this, we appreciate that you have made efforts to make sure this kind of mistake doesn't happen again. So let's kind of open with that. We do appreciate that that happened. Do you want to make a statement?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My statement stands from the last meeting. I would consider us a responsible retailer in the city, in the state. We're in Connecticut, we're in Rhode Island, Massachusetts. We've taken every step possible we can to mitigate this. The employee was terminated. We have been talking to third-party vendors to institute a online type of training program. We're in the middle of that process. This is talked about every day in our stores by our field team, every day. So I just wanted to make sure everybody understands that we are a responsible retailer out there. We don't take this lightly at all.
Thank you.
On the suspension. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions from other members of this committee? Okay, then I think we're looking to pick up where we left off last week. I'm looking for a motion. I believe from what I've heard that notwithstanding that this is your first violation and that you've done a number of things to mitigate it, our rules and regulations would basically go by following our rules and regulations. So I'm looking for a motion from this group to do the 5-day suspension as recommended by the staff. Is there a motion on that?
I'm gonna make a motion that we suspend for 1 day.
Is there a second for the motion to suspend for 1 day? Okay, not hearing one. Is there another motion? Are there any other motions?
I move to support the recommendation for the health department, the $1,000 fine and the 5-day suspension.
Thank you, Leo.
Can I just state one more thing, Madam Chair?
Yeah.
Then we can take the vote. Listen, okay? Worcester is going through a time, and if you folks have ever walked downtown and seen all the boarded up buildings of all the businesses that have left, and some of that reason is because we don't show any flexibility, okay? And what I mean by flexibility, we have here a fine business owner, okay? Made a mistake, they took care of the person. If we continue to go down this road, we're gonna lose more and more small businesses in the city of Worcester. And that's why I'm hoping within the future, okay? I know the rules and regulations are the way they are, okay? And I get that, and I support that you have to follow the rules, okay? But what I'm saying to this committee and to the business at large here that we're trying to do is that we need to show some flexibility, okay? Because if we don't show that flexibility, more and more small businesses are gonna leave the city, and Worcester is gonna continue to have a decline in downtown Worcester and small businesses. So that's my statement, and I appreciate the time, Madam Chair. And I look forward from the administration coming back in February on how we can have some flexibility, okay? At least make that presentation to us, okay? And maybe by that time, we'll have a full board members at this time. It's very difficult. We're gonna make a decision tonight with only 3 board members, and there's supposed to be 5. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Michael. Here's where I'm not 100% sure, so I guess I'm looking to, we only have 3 board members. We need to second a motion. Is the chair allowed to second the motion? Okay. Michael,
Excuse
are
me?
you willing to second that motion or not?
What, mine?
Yes.
I'll second my own motion, sure. I don't know if that's Robert's rules, but I'll second my,
You're seconding Leo's motion.
oh,
You did not get a second for your motion.
okay. No, then I'm not gonna second this motion.
Then I think we're at an impasse because we don't have a larger number of people on the board at this point. Am I wrong about that?
I believe you can put forth another motion until you get to an agreement.
We've been trying. At the last meeting, I asked for 1, then 2 days, and they were both, did not pass.
We're checking with the rules right now. Yeah. So yes, the chair is allowed to second.
Okay, then
Where'd you get that rule from? Can I see?
This is based on very specific instances in which, like for
What
example, with
instances are
having,
those? Where are you getting your information from? Through the chair.
Robert's Rules, 12 edition, section 49, with regards to small boards.
Pardon me?
With regards to small boards,
Okay, so what does
Because
it say? What does it say when you have a small board?
please wait a second till I give you the right text. Well, there are several things that it says about small boards, but one of which is this microphone. One of which is that, in fact, the chair can second a motion. Now, I'm trying to
Madam Chair, I'm good on that.
Okay, so I'm gonna, in consultation with my colleague to my left, I am going to second the motion that's on the floor, which would be to take the staff recommendation of a 5-day suspension that Leo moved. Any further discussion of that? Okay, then I'm gonna call the vote. Michael?
Michael Parado, no.
Leo?
Yes.
Francis Anthony's yes. So I'm sorry, the suspension as recommended by staff of 5 days will hold. It does seem like the issue is coming up, as Michael Parado just mentioned, that maybe we should look at the regs. We are not in the business of putting small businesses out of the Worcester downtown or any other part of the area. That's not what we're looking for. We are, however, as a Board of Health, focused on the regulations which are designed to prevent minors from smoking because of the public health issues. So I thank you very much for your time and for coming twice. If there was to be any change in the regulations, it has to go through a public hearing process. So I would encourage you all to get engaged in that process if that's coming forward. Thank you. Okay. Yes, the staff person is going to work with you on that, okay? Thank you. Amelia, are you on the line here?
Yes, I am.
Okay, could we move then to the next agenda item where Amelia's going to give our communicable disease update?
Good evening, everyone, to the chair and to the committee. This is the Public Health Nursing Report. So I assume you have it in front of you. Yes, the board does. Okay.
Yes.
So the notable changes, this is from November to December. This is the comparison. With influenza cases, they rose quite significantly with 992 confirmed cases in December. And as you see, up from 23 in November. And that's a concern all over the state. COVID, novel coronavirus, cases rose from 54 in November to 143 in December. Measles, we didn't have anything to report. Mpox cases, there were 2 in November, nothing to report in December. We did have salmonella both months. That tends to be low this time of year. We also had 3 cases of Streptococcus pneumonia in December. And Streptococcus pneumonia is a bacteria, and it's involved in a wide range of infections. Also, we had 1 malaria case in that we know doing the case investigation that was travel related. I just want to read a message from Dr. Goldstein, the state's public health commissioner, on this flu season and why there's such a concern. So he says this flu season, we're concerned about this new variant that is circulating. This subclade K strain is what it's called. It's a mutated version of one of the 2 subtypes, which is type A flu H3N2, allowing it to evade some of the protection of the vaccine. This H3N2 is typically harsh, especially in older adults. So we believe that it's too soon to say how severe this season will be. And this is according to the CDC. Dr. Goldstein says it's not a perfect match between this vaccine and the variant that's now circulating, but residents are urged to get vaccinated anyway. You still have significant protection, and we know this from other parts of the world where we have seen that people who get vaccinated are still protected. And what's important is they're likely to end up in a hospital and less likely to be out of work for a long period of time. The vaccine still works, and people should get it, from Dr. Goldstein. And we know that, and he emphasized that people can get vaccinated even well into the flu season. I mean, just last week I was at a free clinic and I administered flu vaccine to 4 uninsured individuals. So we continue to give it as best we can. That's the end of my report for communicable disease.
Thank you very much, Amelia. Questions from my colleagues? Leo?
No, just out of curiosity, do we know the rate of vaccines in Worcester? People that got vaccinated in Worcester?
I would have to get that between the state registry and confirm with UMass as well. I can get you those numbers next time.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mike, any questions? Amelia, I have one question. It seems to me that at our last meeting, we talked about a neurovirus as well. Where would that fit on this chart? I think Dr. Hirsch gave us a good description of how awful it was, but I'm not sure. Does that fit under novel coronavirus as well as COVID?
No, it's norovirus is like a GI thing, and you get it from eating contaminated foods, not washing your hands, that sort of thing. And it's easy to pass around, and it's prevalent in like schools and colleges, that sort of thing. So that would be more of a GI.
Okay, so that's not one we track as a communicable disease then? That's what
We
you're saying.
track it. We track it. These numbers here report what we have seen in the last month that, number one, are either notable, or number two, we haven't seen in a long time, or there's a case at all for them, like malaria, we haven't seen in a long time, and there's a case, but it's a travel-related case. If a disease is not on here, not including TB, if a disease is not on here, we probably didn't have it in the last month.
Okay, so if neurovirus was really active in Worcester, it would get on your report? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're going to turn now to the workforce development and training efforts. And we have a handout for that.
So that's me again.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So I am part of this training and workforce development team. We call ourselves the training committee. We are another one of the divisional subcommittee groups that works on priorities identified by both the city and the division's strategic plan. Chelsea, who runs our team, has put this together, but she's not here today, so I am here instead. So just little background on this. Let's see. I think we just, so just to begin with, the strategic plan, goal 1 and objective 2. Okay, so these are the initiatives that the training team have been asked to work on. And along with meeting FAB accreditation, core competencies, and SAFE 2.0 state law and guidelines. So what we are working on does come from WDPH strategic plan and the City of Worcester strategic plan as well. So if you go to the next slide. So the goal 1 and objective 2 initiatives include establishing annual training fund, establishing a regular supervisor/management training cohort for new and existing managers, completing a workforce development plan for the division, identifying training opportunities for all Worcester DPH staff. And again, as previously mentioned, what we identify as trainings must satisfy both FAB and SAFE 2.0 requirements. And the FAB 8 core competencies that we focus on are listed here. I don't need to read them. And then the SAFE 2.0 initiatives as well are part of state recommendations, and online you can find a more comprehensive outline for the SAFE 2.0. Okay. So the timeline of the work. We started in July with this workforce development and satisfaction survey. That's when the first one was administered, and it took a few weeks to get through the high-level overview, and we were able to present the information we found to the WDPH staff. The findings were general, but based on the categories and level of importance related to the staff's identified skill sets. So as a result, the priority training needs have now been established. We are looking at trainings for community engagement involving communication skills, determinants of health and data gathering involving analytical and assessment skills, health equity and cultural competency involving policy development, program planning as well, all of which address FAB, public health core competencies. There are other areas further down the list, such as grant writing, quality improvement, cultural humility. The thing is that this workforce development plan that we're working on is a living document, and it will be regularly updated to ensure that we meet these priorities, accreditation, and regulations. And the updates will be based on ongoing division assessments, and as next steps, you can see we will be preparing the next competency assessment that will be rolled out in July 2026. So we're in the process of identifying and coordinating division-wide trainings. And that's
Thank you.
it for now, at least.
Thank you, Amelia. Questions, Mike? Questions, Leo? Amelia, my only question is, back on the Goal 1, Objective 2 initiatives, establishing an annual training fund, I'm sorry. Were you able to do that? Is there money for training?
That's what we're working on.
Okay. We'll come back to you on that one.
Yes, we'll come back to that.
Okay. Thank you. And I'm glad that I think one of the things that we as a board are still trying to understand is how all the pieces fit together. terms of the city
Yes.
strategic plan, the 2 requirements that we have either for accreditation or for the state. And I appreciate that you're doing that work that is trying to pull that together. So thank you, and thank your committee for working on that.
Thank you.
Okay, the next thing we have in front of us is, I think, Tamara, you're gonna help us with this, or?
To the chair, we should have Susan Church joining us virtually to present out on from the Office for Refugees and Immigrants. Susan?
Okay, we're all set, thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for having me.
Susan, thank you for being here.
No problem. Do you want me to do the slides or are you going to do them?
To the chair.
Whichever is easiest for you.
Because I sent you a PDF, so I don't think it'll work if you do it. Why don't you just let me do them?
Okay, sure. I'll stop sharing.
Okay,
Thank you.
no problem. One less thing for you to do. If I could have sharing, somebody could provide me with sharing capacity. It says only meeting organizers and presenters can share, so somebody needs to make me a presenter. Ah, there we go. Great. Thank you.
Susan, this seems like a very timely presentation. I wish it
Yeah,
was.
so
I wish it wasn't.
there is obviously a lot going on out there. So, and some of you may all know exactly what I'm talking about. So I really appreciate questions in the middle of this. I'm very comfortable with that. I'm a lawyer, so just so we get you the most amount of information that you need and want, I just strongly recommend you going ahead and interrupting me, if that's okay. Okay, so this is kind of Know Your Rights 4.0 on immigration. It's really much more about understanding what the law is around ICE and ICE's the limits of ICE and the capacity of ICE. As a broad overview for anyone who's not familiar with ICE, all of the immigration law structure comes from the Department of Homeland Security. Embedded within that is ICE, or Immigration and Customs Enforcement, but they are not just the individuals you're seeing on the streets. They are also prosecutors in the courtroom. ICE used to be an organization, also used to have a priority system within an organization called HSI, or Homeland Security Investigations, whose purpose was to investigate child pornography and human trafficking. Under this administration, what we're seeing is ICE investigating visa overstays. They were responsible for going out to the houses of unaccompanied minors and quote unquote checking up on them. So we've seen a real deterioration in the safety mission of HSI and ICE into this very visual enforcement efforts that you're seeing. CBP is Customs and Border Patrol. If you've ever flown into the United States, you've handed somebody from CBP your passport. Their authority to stop and search anyone, including a U.S. citizen, including a phone of a U.S. citizen, a laptop, or other thing, it's almost unfettered at the border, because the courts have ruled that that you don't need a search warrant, you don't need reasonable cause, you don't need reasonable suspicion if you're outside the U.S. and you're not legally inside the U.S. till you pass through CBP. Their enforcement authority also extends to within 100 miles of the border of the United States, which includes both the East Coast and the West Coast. So very large authority, very large stop and search authority, and very little checks at the border. USCIS is the agency that used to be, we used to call them the benefits agency. They were supposed to be customer services oriented. Under this administration, we are seeing arrest of spouses of U.S. citizens with no criminal record, no criminal history whatsoever at their green card interview, which if you kind of understand the process, that to me is probably one of the most telling things that this administration has done to stop all legal immigration whatsoever, not just illegal immigration, certainly not criminals. So a spouse of a US citizen, a spouse, when they go to their green card interview, they are immediately at the end of that interview, if they pass that interview, entitled to a green card. And what we have seen this administration doing in some cities, not thankfully yet in Massachusetts, but in other cities, is arresting the spouse before the interview's over and not even letting them finish it because they know once the interview's over, they lose their green card. So that agency has been transformed under this administration from a benefits agency into a prosecutorial agency. So there is a lot of misunderstanding of ICE's authority. It is technically a federal law enforcement agency, but it is supposed to be a civil enforcement agency, right? You wouldn't know that in this day under this administration because what they've done is they pulled in FBI agents, ATF agents. All of these agents are off their regular duty. So FBI is obviously an anti-terrorism agency and they do a lot of anti-terrorism investigation. ATF goes after guns and tobacco and firearms, right? Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. They're pulling people off of that duty and putting them out on the streets with ICE agents to increase the capacity of ICE agents. Generally in our state, we don't have any cooperation between, we don't have any 287G agreements or anything that allows our state, local, and state police to cooperate with ICE, except in the very limited circumstances of what we call joint task forces. So one example of that is the Joint Terrorism Task Force. Massachusetts has a special rule called Lund v. Commonwealth, which is a law that came from our Supreme Judicial Court that says that no state official or local official or police officer, so no probation officer, no judge, no jail person can hold a person for ICE pickup. That law comes from the fact that there is no constitutional basis to do that. There's no neutral and detached magistrate, and there's no individualized determination. What that looks like in our state is that ICE has to have a judicial warrant in order to enter somebody's home, in order to enter a private location. So, for example, a church. Is that a private or a public location? Most of the time that's public, right? Because most churches allow people to enter and exit. That's the purpose of a church. But a school would be a private location. Most schools have a sign-in, sign-out procedure. They have a door that's locked. Maybe their parking lot is public, right? So I'm sure you might have seen some footage in Minnesota where ICE came in and conducted an arrest at a school, but it was in the parking lot of the school, so they had the authority to enter there. Officers who work for ICE have very similar powers to police, right? They're bound by the Constitution and they're limited by the Constitution in the same ways. One thing that's a little different is they are legally allowed to demand identification from people that they have reasonable cause to believe are present unlawfully. Part of that stems from the fact that immigrants have to carry a green card or proof of registration on them at all times. But they're also allowed to walk up to anybody and say, can you give me an ID? And you're welcome to say no and walk away. Only if ICE has probable cause to arrest you will they then stop and arrest you. It's a very tricky process to figure out whether they have probable cause to arrest you when they're coming up to you. Similarly, anybody anybody who is approached by ICE also has the right to remain silent and say nothing at all. You might have all heard of that race case. Did everybody hear about the case with the Supreme Court said that it's quote unquote legal to approach people based on race? That's not really what that court case said. California sued when ICE was there with the Border Patrol, saying that they were walking up to people who were at car washes, restaurants, and working as day laborers and just randomly checking the IDs of people in those locations. They said that that was based on race and it was illegal. When they went to the Supreme Court didn't answer that question. about whether it is legal to approach based on race or not. What the Supreme Court said is that this nationwide restraining order where one federal judge gets to make a decision for the entire country is not a preferred method of fixing problems with the courts. So I do have some hope that like that case, the birthright citizenship case, and the case, there's a third case that went up to the Supreme Court, but that some of those cases might come back with a more positive result for immigrants after they get past this nationwide restraining order case. Any questions while I'm paused? You can raise your hand or, okay. There's a lot of misunderstanding about ICE warrants. This is a judicial warrant here. Okay, this says signed by a court. It is uses the word search and seizure. Our state courts don't. ICE doesn't use the word search and seizure. And this is an ICE warrant. It has alien on it, or that's a term that only ICE uses. It's Department of Homeland Security. And this one is signed specifically by an immigration officer, whereas a judicial warrant is always signed by a judge. You guys probably already know all this, so I'm going to go through it quickly. This is what a state warrant would look like. It's signed by a judge, which I'll show you on the next page. It says it's a search warrant and it's issued by a court. And here's signed. So again, the areas that are private are the areas that ICE cannot get into without a judicial warrant. This is probably a public hearing. I don't know if you guys have authorities to like exclude people, but generally this is a public location that you're in right now. That means ICE could come here. But if you had offices attached to the back that said employees only, that would be a private area, and ICE would need a judicial warrant to enter that area. They can't even show up with what's called an administrative warrant. So what ICE does is they wake up in the morning and they say, I'm going to arrest these 10 people. And they print their names out on the computer. There's like a research team says, these 10 guys live in Mass, go get them. And then they just go arrest them. There's no judge involved in that process. There's no neutral detached magistrate. And that's why our courts have really dishonored these administrative warrants or detainers that ICE uses. So in order to get into any private area, including your home, they need a judicial warrant. And I think that, you know, the community, which you might know this, did massive amounts of education around Know Your Rights when he was elected for the second time. Like we couldn't find people to give these presentations to. And I think that's why you're seeing so many street arrest versus home arrest, because last time people would open their doors and this time no one's opening their doors because of these Know Your Rights presentations. What we advise people is if ICE does come to their home or into your office space, you tell them you can, if you choose, you can exercise your right to remain silent. You can ask to see the warrant. You can ask that they identify yourself, and you can use these Know Your Rights cards that are pretty popular, and you could slide it under the door. Out on the street, it's very different. Okay, so you have a lot of rights in your home and in a private area. In a public area, really all ICE needs to have in order to stop you and arrest you is probable cause to believe you're here in violation of the laws. That's with an administrative warrant. The law is also clear that there's no known prohibitions in Massachusetts against them wearing a mask, probably because we've never had to face that question before, right? None of our state or local law enforcement wear masks in performing their duties, and we've never had federal agents in my lifetime do it. Similarly about the badges, there's a lot of people saying, show me your badge, show me your badge. But that is really even under ICE's rules, not required until it's safe and practical to do so during an arrest, which is often they're interpreting that as the end of the arrest. Similarly, ICE cannot just stop any car because the driver's Hispanic or the driver appears to be from, you know, Lithuania, right? They need reasonable suspicion, again, to believe that the person that they're driving the car or the passenger is here in violation of the laws. It's a little different for bystanders. So I'm sure you've all heard of people, what we heard a lot of in our office, many reports of a bunch of people in a work truck. And in that work truck, ICE pulls over the driver because they know the driver, and then they arrest everybody else in the work truck, right? I had a meeting with almost 300 Brazilian community members who this happened to. Each and one of these, almost every one of these employers lost all their employees on a single day because they would pull over one work truck, get one person in there, and then arrest everybody else. Chicago got a lawsuit against this because it is in violation of the laws. In order for ICE to arrest somebody who they don't know who that person is when they approach them, they have to know two things. One, that the person's here in violation of the immigration laws. And two, and this is what they couldn't possibly know just by a preliminary encounter, is that they're likely to escape before an arrest warrant can be obtained. And we know ICE was even arresting people within immigration court hearings, right? So how's that any evidence that the person was going to be an escape risk because they were showing up voluntarily to court? So that's a rule that's very regularly broken by ICE that Chicago has successfully sued over. ICE doesn't really have requirements to serve the warrants on people either. So they use these administrative warrants and they have a long list of who's supposed to be able to sign them, but they don't have very clear rules around somebody serving them. So bystanders, I'm sure, and again, feel free to interrupt. I can try to answer. I'm not an expert on what happened in Minnesota, but I obviously follow the news like everybody else. Certainly, everyone has the legal right to bear witness to a public arrest, right? That's obvious. I've recently seen videos online of ICE actually blocking the streets where they are conducting enforcement actions, which I don't think is legal because it's a public place, just as we can't exclude them from that public place, they should not be able to exclude people from a public place, but they are doing it in Minnesota. Physically interfering with ICE, this has horrible ramifications. Now reading it out loud could have adverse consequences to you and the immigrant. Keeping calm and promoting calm. I know it's one thing to blow the whistles that you see in other states, but often the immigrant is the person who bears the brunt of that type of activity. So when we do these presentations, we advise people to promote calm. Massachusetts law is unequivocally allows for videotaping. The only exception to that is inside courthouses. Those are not necessarily public places. And obviously a facility or a house can say no videotaping here, but out on the streets, it's legal and it can't be restricted by ICE, no matter what they say. People have the right to witness and document what's going on and ask the immigrant for help. So if you are a bystander and you do want to help, this is what we've advised people to do. We're not telling people what to do or how to do it, but if it's something you're trying to help, it's really important to get all the details. You can see what happened in Minnesota. There are multiple videos that tell multiple stories, right? Because each of them is from a different angle. And some of what happened was not even caught on video. It happened even before the shooting in Minnesota. So bystanders can be helpful by taking notes, by figuring out, we don't have the time, we don't know who's here from ICE. And it's important for us to know who's here to get a sense of whether or not our state is under a surge, right? So do you see something on the vest that says FBI, ATF, or HSI? How does the person get placed in the car? Is there any audio? Make sure if you're videotaping something, don't talk over the videotape. We want to hear what's going on, not your screaming, the way some of those videos from Minnesota are. Note taking. After ICE leaves and they've arrested the person, take notes about who was there, how many people were there, what were the officers wearing, how many, what were the cars. Often we've seen ICE have cars with mismatched license plates on the front and the back and switching around of license plates because they're deliberately trying to avoid detection. We also want to see if there's damage to any people. If you want to help somebody who's being arrested by ICE, what we advise is ask the person, who can we call? Do you have a spouse? Do you have somebody, a wife, attorney, a child, anybody that I can call to try to help you? And also to get permission to represent the person. There are a lot of groups who are trying to keep track of what goes on in our state, particularly violations of the law. They're looking for random stops. I describe that as, like, let's say they're at the Worcester commuter rail station. And they are randomly taking the IDs of anybody and saying, particularly people who appear they might be immigrants, that's illegal, right? That's non-targeted enforcement. That's random stops. It's not legal in this country. And so ACLU, the Attorney General's office, and Luce Network all would want to hear about that. Any sort of harm to children, pregnant women, really compelling stories like the long-term residents and green card holders without a criminal record, and obviously violence against bystanders or demeaning outrageous behavior. This is the way to order the Know Your Rights cards. These were on back order for all of January, February, and March, but I think you can actually order them now. We advise people, particularly people who speak English as a second language, to have these cards on their wallet, on their front door, in their purse, wherever they can have it, in their glove compartment. We don't have a lot of time, but one of our biggest complaints that we get at our office is lawyers, right? I'm a lawyer, I can say it, but some lawyers do a terrible, terrible, terrible job. And they take an unbelievable amount of money from immigrants with really no proper service. So one thing to always think about if you're helping an immigrant or working with immigrants is, what does the BBO website? So the Board of Bar Overseers, just as you recently, I heard somebody was suspended for a violation of the Board of Health rules. The Board of Bar Overseers is a similar enforcement agency for lawyers, and they do something called public discipline. So if somebody has violated the bar rules, they will sometimes report it publicly, and you can use that to find out, is this a good lawyer or a bad lawyer? Pro bono or free legal services are very, very, very difficult to get these days, although I will tell you about a new program, but if people are lucky enough to get it, they get great service. Okay, so our office, as soon really as this administration change took place, we started finding ways to help with legal representation in particular, because it is the biggest need in the community. People could not get access to immigration lawyers. So the first program we did is called the Legal Representation Fund. It was funded with the Attorney General's office money. What we do is Bijan will conduct a basic eligibility screening for people. This is not, it's for anybody in the state can call these two numbers, either the detained number or the family or friends hotline. And if the person is eligible for bond, which is how you pay money to get out of immigration custody, Bijan will give them the name of 3 lawyers, and whoever picks up the call that day gets it. And so this is really the best place to go if you're trying to talk to somebody or help somebody who has an emergency. So this is the emergency. We should rename this the Emergency Legal Representation Fund. Another thing our office did is we are seeing people removed from this jurisdiction within 5 hours of being arrested. This is really unprecedented. I haven't seen it in my entire legal career, which is coming up on 30 years. They used to get put into a local detention facility, and then maybe after a couple of weeks, they would get removed to Louisiana or Texas if their case was over. Now what we see is people get picked up at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and by 4 o'clock, they're on a plane to Louisiana or Texas. Often they've already paid a lawyer in the state who they now no longer have real access to. The lawyers can't visit them. It's really a difficult situation. So our office, actually, my husband gave me the idea to hire, recruit volunteer lawyers to help file a habeas corpus petition. And the reason a habeas corpus petition is so valuable is it can stop somebody's removal as soon as it's filed. The federal court in Massachusetts has a rule that it's called the 48-hour hold rule, and it will say to the government, you can't remove this person from the jurisdiction for 48 hours. We are seeing this program get a habeas filed sometimes within an hour and a half of a person being arrested. So it is the one tool we've had to keep people in the jurisdiction. And it's been incredibly successful. They've taken this program and spread it out nationwide. Even Hawaii called us recently to tell us how to do a habeas project, which I'm very proud of. Another thing is a lot of individuals can't find their family. So you might get a question, my brother was taken 4 days ago, 5 days ago, I can't find him. I don't know where he is. And that is because although ICE does have this online website called the Online Detainee Locator, they're not updating it very fast. They misspell the person's name sometimes. They put the wrong country of origin. They mix the names. They switch the first to the last. Maine in particular, if somebody's arrested in Maine, they never get into the system. So this has become a very big problem. That's why you keep hearing people talking about people being disappeared, because sometimes it takes a very long time to find your family member if they're arrested. We're advising immigrants to protect their assets because some people are arrested and they are out of the country within days. A lot of the ways that people used to get access to the courts are no longer available because people are being sent to El Salvador, they're being sent to South Sudan, often again within days of arrest. So we're advising immigrants to get a limited power of attorney that will help them sell their homes or their cars or empty their bank accounts or do whatever is needed in case of an emergency removal. We also advise people to make a safety plan. Sharing your location with a close family member or a friend so that we know that immigrants, when they are picked up by ICE in Massachusetts, go to Burlington, which is where the ICE facility is. So we advise people share your location with people you trust. And if you see that phone, the last known location is Burlington, Mass, you can start to worry, essentially. We also advise immigrants that if you've ever spoken with a lawyer, even if you just paid, $200 for a consultation, share that lawyer's name with a close family member so that it's a lot easier to get a lawyer to jump in, particularly with how overwhelmed immigration lawyers are right now, if we know that the lawyer has got a copy of the paperwork already. We're also seeing people arrested as they pick up relatives at the airport. So CBP will come out into the waiting room and go, oh, are you waiting for Johnny? Well, come with me. And then they arrest the family member if the family member is not got full status. So be prepared when people go to the airport. We're also advising people to make, this is a very depressing presentation, I'm so sorry. We advise people to make a caregiver affidavit for their kids so that their children will have a person dedicated to make educational and medical decisions for them. It's not full-blown guardianship. It can be revoked at any time. It's been very difficult convincing the immigrant community to use this official document because they feel like they're giving away their parental rights when they do it. But we're trying to encourage people to do that. We ask them to ensure their school pickup lists are updated. It is not uncommon for a parent. In fact, I think in Worcester, this happened where the dad was arrested one day and 3 days later they came back for the mom. Then one of the sisters tried to bring that the youngest child to the parents who had both been deported. And the sister got stopped at the airport because there was no formal document allowing for the sister to travel with the younger child. Another big problem we see if parents get deported quickly is passports. People don't have passports for their U.S. citizen children, or even if they're a U.S. citizen child, they don't, let's say they're from Brazil, they don't have the Brazilian passport. So we advise everybody to get passports for all their children and write down any medical conditions. That's the medical conditions are really important because again, you can't even talk to a doctor about a child without proper medical clearance or a release. So make sure medical conditions are written down and doctors are notified about who is going to take care of your child if something happens. These are great family planning guides. One is from the AG's office and one is from the Boston Medical Center. ORI also has a community toolkit that is honestly a great resource. It has all these forms I just discussed in Haitian Creole, Portuguese, Spanish. It has what's called a community support initiative where you can ask for a community meeting with constituents. Let's say if we've had state legislators organize them, we've had community-based organizations organize them, and we will, if you request a community support initiative meeting, we will bring lawyers to you, both immigration lawyers and probate lawyers, who are volunteers who do consults. So we're doing one in Springfield tomorrow night. We have 6 immigration attorneys and 3 probate and family lawyers, and they will meet with immigrant community members who signed up ahead of time and go over what their rights are. So you can request what's called a CSI. Amelia?
Hi, Susan, didn't mean to interrupt you, but
That's okay. I
Um,
like being interrupted.
I mean, thank you for everything. It's all very disturbing, of course, but I'm curious, like, when you say they send them to other countries, how do they choose the other countries? And then what?
Oh, it's so bad. Honestly, this is the thing that people are not talking about enough and is happening a lot. So there's 2 ways that it's happening. One is for somebody, it's kind of complicated, but if somebody receives something called withholding of removal or Convention Against Torture relief, that's the kind of relief where the immigration judge says, I can't give you asylum because maybe you missed the deadline or maybe you don't qualify for asylum, but I'll give you this other type of protection called withholding. And you can't bring your family here on withholding, but we won't send you back to your country because that country's dangerous to you. Those people, they're taking those people and saying, oh, well, you can't be sent to Colombia because you have Colombian withholding, but we can send you to South Sudan. And they are sending people to South Sudan. And these are not people with really that, I mean, I don't think anybody we don't have documentation of any more than maybe 1 or 2 people with no criminal record being sent to an alternative country. But now, in addition to that, a new program they just started in the last month is for everybody. No criminal record, nothing. If you are deported if you got asylum from Colombia, so the immigration judge will go, Colombia, yep, I understand you can't go there, it's very dangerous. We're sending you to Honduras, right? And they terminate your asylum case, they don't give you asylum, and then they send you to Honduras. What do you guys think happens when you go to Honduras? Take a wild guess. Honduras immediately deports you to Colombia. Immediately. Puts you on the first bus to Colombia because you don't have status in Honduras. So it is a very bad situation. It's a terrible workaround on the asylum law. I think it's a violation of international asylum laws. And, I don't know if there's going to be a successful lawsuit about it or not, but it is a huge problem.
How would Honduras know to send them back to Colombia?
Because they have Colombian passports.
Oh, they have their passports.
Right, yeah, they'll have a Colombian passport, but an immigration judge has said you can't go to Colombia because it's too dangerous for you there. You're going to be subject to persecution or death or whatever.
Oh my God.
Right, and then Honduras puts them on the first bus to Colombia.
And so now with the situation in Venezuela, that has to be tough for anybody coming from there.
Right, and so I think Venezuela, they're gonna quickly move up. Right now, it's very difficult for them to deport to Venezuela because Venezuela doesn't take its people back. But the first thing that this administration is going to do is to get the new Venezuelan, quote unquote, new Venezuelan administration to take people back on a much faster basis. So a lot of Venezuelans ended up in CICOT in El Salvador in that notorious prison because Venezuela won't take people back.
Thank you.
So I have to start with some good news because my presentation is always so terribly depressing. My good news is that one of the hugest needs out in the community is access to counsel, right? We have a massive shortage in Massachusetts of immigration lawyers. Immigration lawyers are overwhelmed. Nonprofits have been closed for intake for months at a time, 6-7 months at a time. So the legislature in this most recent budget appropriated $5 million for an immigrant legal services program. That program is now open for business. The Mira Coalition is the organizer of that program. If anyone you know or anyone you're working with is in deportation proceedings, their intake line is open now. I do expect that this program will be at capacity in a month probably, and they won't be able to take any new cases for a while. But it is full representation in immigration court, and it's a first of its kind program in Massachusetts. In addition to that legal resource and the other ones I mentioned, we also have these legal resources. MIRA has a great helpline, the MIRA Coalition. I strongly recommend that program. And sometimes it takes 2 days for them to get back to you, but it still works. City of Boston has free consultations. And if you're looking for help outside of Massachusetts, somebody gets stuck in Louisiana, the last website has those resources. So I rushed through that a little bit. I feel free to ask questions. Desiree?
Yeah, my name is Mike Parado. I have a question
Oh.
for you. If there is if ICE is breaking the law, and I hope this isn't a stupid question, but I always ask it, can our law enforcement arrest them because they're breaking the law?
That is a very, very, very good question. So if an ICE agent is beating up his wife, right, in the house, yes, you can arrest them. There's no question about that. There is some question that I don't know the answer to if the ICE agent's doing their job. So there is a fair amount of immunity for law enforcement in general. And when they're doing their jobs, there isn't full immunity. So you'll remember right before the shooting of the murder in Minnesota. Oh my God, I forgot his name 5 years ago, right before COVID.
George Floyd.
George, Fo-
George Floyd.
Yes, thank you. God, you remember right before George Floyd, it never happened that police were prosecuted for excessive force. It was impossible. Like you never had an excessive force charge brought. And then all of a sudden you saw them all the time. I think something is similar to that with ICE. Like there is authority to do it. There is some ability to do it. I just don't know if it's fully supplemented by the federal law. I will say, so separate from our state police arresting them, there is a lot of movement to do what's called a Federal Torts Claim Act claim against a ICE officer, not necessarily for a murder, like what happened in not a murder, but a shooting in Minnesota. But, you know, for the broken windows, for the arresting the US citizens that we have seen multiple times, those people can file an individual lawsuit against an ICE officer. And I know in Massachusetts, we already have 5 or 6 of those pending through Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights and through the ACLU against individual ICE officers. That, in my opinion, is one of the fastest ways to get them to follow the rules is when you can sue them individually.
could you tell
Because
me how many
we
people?
used to be able to, we used to be able to go to the Office of Civil Rights and complain about the ICE officer. That office doesn't exist anymore. You know, we used to be able to like speak to their supervisor. They don't care anymore. I mean, I think the vice president said today there's complete immunity for ICE officer, which is madness. That's not true. But sorry.
Could you tell me approximately how many people have been deported from Massachusetts?
You mean under this administration?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Oh,
I saw that number. I saw that number. It was in the New York Times. And I will try to get it to you because I can't remember it right now. I know that the New York Times did a report about the percentage of people deported without criminal records under this administration. And it's like 67% did not have criminal records. Something like that. But I'll try to remember to find that article for you.
thank you. Thank you for all the hard work that you do. And the presentation was very enlightening. It was a little bit sad. I can't believe we're living
I'm sorry.
in our country like this, but we will get beyond this. We'll get it back. Thank you.
Some of us will. People say that, but some of us will, and some families will be destroyed forever.
Yep.
And some lives will be destroyed forever because it's very difficult to get people to come back. Very, very difficult if they are deported, next to impossible. Sorry, I'm just Debbie Downer today. I think there's one more question, or maybe it's the same hand up from before.
So it's me, Desiree. I just wanted to ask, and I know you brought up stuff like signage and everything, but as an employer, how can we protect our employees best?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think every business is a little different, and if you have the capacity to consult with a lawyer, you should. But I would just say, look at your space. Think about what are public and private areas of your space. In a restaurant, for example, where the people can come in and out and eat, that's public. Now you can refuse to serve somebody, but you can't keep them out of your public area. But every restaurant has an employees only section in the kitchen, right? And there's a sign that says employees only. Target, I saw ICE was in Target in Minnesota today. That is a public place, unfortunately, and they arrested a U.S. citizen in that Target. Actually, there's a picture of him with a black and blue eye after the arrest, and then they released him 20 minutes later. But that's a public place. But the storeroom in the back, the employee break room, all that's private. And so signage helps clearly delineate that. But you can't make something private that's public. So I can't go out to my local street and put a sign up and say my street's private now, right? It has to be previously private.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Other questions or comments?
Madam Chair, I was wondering, this is more or less for us, if we could request that, I don't know, is it somehow the school department gets a hold of this report? I don't know, if we could help from our perspective.
Through the chair.
We've
could
done
you repeat that
presentations
question?
we've done a large number of presentations for schools. We did a joint presentation with the AGs for the superintendents. We did it for the frontline staff. But you're welcome to send that to them just to make sure, because it gets updated all the time.
Okay. Have you done anything in Worcester? Presentation to
Well,
them?
we did like a statewide a superintendent's meeting.
yeah.
We did a statewide frontline staff, ESOL teachers. We did principals. We did school committee. I can't remember. So everybody was invited statewide.
And there were
But if they feel the need, I'm happy to come back for them.
some community meetings in Worcester that
Yep.
you presented.
Yep. We did a regional community meeting in September. We did a big regional community meeting with, I think McGovern was there. I can't remember who else was there. But this presentation changes all the time, so we're happy to keep doing it whenever, whoever wants it.
Right, that's what I was just going to say, that I think this is changing all the time.
Every day, every week, I have to change it.
And if there's a surge, we're in a whole different situation, perhaps, that kind of thing.
Yep. Yep.
Tamara, were you going to say something?
Thank you. I was just asking for clarification on the last question. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I think it's really helpful to get this word out as much as possible.
Yes.
And I very much appreciate you sharing this information with the Board of Health.
All right, thanks for inviting me, and thank you for all you do. Take care.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Just when you think it's easy.
I know, huh? Wow.
Any comments or questions? If not, I'm going to turn it over to you, Tamara, for your report.
Thank you. For the sake of time, I will just note that you all have the package for the previous Board of Health meetings and motions made previously, covering November back to, just 1 second, June of this year, and then you also have the ones that have been closed out in your appendix. I'll draw your attention to the motion that was made on previous Board of Health meeting for the month of June in 2025. In the previous Board of Health meeting in December, you would have received a supplemental report shared with the Board of Health. And if there are additional questions about that, sharing the resources that exist within our community and helping with individuals who might find themselves in similar situations as Susan shared with us tonight. So in response to the request from the board and contacting Immigrant Legal Resource Center in San Francisco, we were able to provide that supplemental report. And so if there are additional questions from that report, we can always have an opportunity to speak about that in a future meeting. But I just wanted to draw your attention to that. Just a few updates. Yes.
Tamara, could we include as part of the minutes the phone numbers that she has already indicated to us are really important, because then they become perhaps more public than her presentation here?
Yes. Thank you. Mhm. Just to give a few updates on the programmatic level. So you all know we had our FAP visit back in October of last year. We actually recently received a preliminary report where we were pleased with the outcomes. 88% of the 100 measures that we were reviewed against, we either fully demonstrated or largely demonstrated that we met those standards. So a really good overall outcome. We're waiting for the final official report to come in March. However, we wanted to just share that good news with the Board of Health that based on this preliminary report, we did quite well. Internally, we continue to work on identifying areas of improvement and focusing on some of the things that you heard tonight, like the workforce development, quality improvement, data and documentation infrastructure within the division. So we continue to make strides towards continuous improvement within our division, but we've had some great achievements over the last few months, including that we were awarded the Public Health Infrastructure Grant. That's a grant that we've received in the past in helping to expand the public health infrastructure. We also have received 2 grants where we are awarded air sensors that we'll be able to either purchase or receive to be able to place in different areas throughout the city to identify high levels of air pollution and focus targeted mitigation opportunities to improve the air quality in those high-risk areas. WDPH, we also were awarded 4 other trust fund grants through the City of Worcester to help with programmatic services within our public health nursing office, staff wellness team, and our maternal child health. So all great accomplishments that we're incredibly proud of that have taken place within the last calendar year. For the month of January, just from an educational awareness standpoint, it is National Blood Donor Month. Our internal collaboration and communications team raised our awareness around this, that every 2 seconds someone in the U.S. needs blood, yet only 3% of the eligible Americans donate. So included in the packet are resources where people can donate, and people are encouraged to donate if they so choose to do so. Our staff wellness in the month of December really helped us feel the holiday spirit. Our team, our internal communications team shared highlights of this. We had a number of activities that occurred to share the holiday spirit. Door decorating competition. We had our Thanksgiving potluck, the building-wide potluck, and Yankee swap. You see a few pictures there of the 2 doors that actually won the competition. But the team continues to do great work while also celebrating and supporting each other. Just to highlight, we are in the midst of interviews for Board of Health members. We have had 2 interviews thus far. We anticipate having more candidates this month. Our goal is to have those interviews conducted and completed by the end of this month, with the ability to move forward with some decisions by February. So more to come on that. And I believe that those are the updates that I have. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Questions? Leon? I had a couple questions, or maybe they're comments. In terms of the grants that you're getting, it would be helpful to me to know where you're getting them from, who's giving them to us. And the other end of that is, are there ones we used to be getting that are not being renewed because of funding changes somewhere? That would probably also just be helpful to know. And then just to come back to your issue about vacancies, as we could see tonight, 3 is a really small number for this board to try and function well with. So if there's anything I can do to assist with that, let me know.
Total agreement with Madam Chair on that, okay? So tell that to the city manager through the Board of Health. We'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other comments? Then I think we're moving towards the next meeting date and the topics. Unless I'm wrong, Kyle, we should be maybe getting a report back on the tobacco issues for our next meeting, or is that too soon if it's the beginning of February? Just what's the thinking about that?
Madam Chair, thank you for that question. We are still waiting on the legal department to give some feedback on the policy options that we presented. I'm optimistic that it will have something to share in February, even if it's not full policy recommendations ready to be voted on. I hope I have some preliminary information for you to look over.
Okay, so we should assume that that's one of our agenda items for that meeting. That would be good. Other agenda items for the next meeting that people might want to mention? Okay, then we'll kind of move along with our regularly scheduled items. And I'm thinking that the next meeting might be on February 2nd, which is the first Monday of February. Does that work? Again, there's only 3 of us. Does that work for all of us? And obviously, if we don't, even one of us means there's no quorum, and one of us not here. So if anything changes, let's schedule it for February 2nd. But if anything changes, if you could let either me or Tamara know, that would be really helpful. And then if there aren't any other questions, comments, I think we're looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Madam Chair.
Second, Leo second.
Thank you, Leah. And meeting is adjourned.